All right, some of you seventh graders said good afternoon. Some of you said good evening. What is it? Afternoon? Evening? How many say evening? Raise your hand. How many say afternoon? Raise your hand. Evening's got it. Now, upper graders, Anahi, you may remember yesterday when I was there, I told you guys I'm going to have a quiz for you. Do you remember that? Okay, do you remember what the quiz was? Who has the shortest name in the Bible? Now, someone said Lot. Og of Bashan. He was a king that was conquered by the Israelites. Og. Now, someone said Lot. He comes in second place with a few other people. All right? Eli, you made second place. Don't feel bad about it. Where's Eli? There you go. Don't feel bad about it. You made second place. But today I want to talk about Lot. Today I want to talk about Lot. When I prayed about, okay, what would be, what would be a good charge for our graduate, I thought of the life of Lot. Why? Lot gives us a lot of warnings. But we find in the life of Lot as well a great deal of encouragement. So Anahi, remember Lot's life. Remember Lot's life. All right, let's talk about Lot. Lot came from a broken family. He was an orphan. His father died, his mother passed away. But good for Lot, he had a very compassionate uncle. You know who that uncle was? Whoa, who said that? Someone knows their Bible, Joseph. Uncle Abraham. And Uncle Abraham had the bucks. He was rich. He was rich. And so he took Lot in. He adopted Lot. And as a result of that, Lot became rich as well. We read in Genesis 13, Lot also, who went with Abraham, had what? Flocks and herds and tents. All right. That translated into money at that time. Yes. So one of the first things I want to draw from the life of Lot, and is that God is going to bring people into our lives that are rich. Not necessarily materially rich, physically rich, but spiritually rich. Those who are going to bless us, those who are going to have a positive influence on us as well. But you know what happens when you have a lot of money? You know what happens when you have a lot of flocks and herds and tents? There starts to be some trouble. So we read later on in chapter 13, now the land was not able to support them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were what? So great that they could not dwell together. So Abraham and Lot, their herdsmen, their servants, their cattle, they began butting heads with one another. Now Abraham was a very compassionate and thoughtful man. And he said, Lot, look, I'm going to let you make the decision. If you go to the west, I'll go to the east. If you go to the north, I'll go to the south. You choose where you want to go, and I'll take the other direction. This is the rich uncle saying that. Abraham was a very, very unselfish man. Well, Lot liked that idea. And so what happened? Later on in chapter 13, we read the following. Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was what? Well watered everywhere. So he looks at this lot of land, no pun intended. He looks at this spot of land and he says, wow, this is going to be good for my cattle. This is going to be good. Oh, this is going to be good for trade as well. This is going to make me even richer. So this is what Lot is thinking. Then Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan. Thank you, Uncle Abraham. I will take that spot right there. However, let's continue, because this choice is going to have a profound impact for the rest of Lot's life. Notice what we're told. Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent even as far as what? Sodom. Remember Sodom. So he didn't go into Sodom, But he took his cattle, he took his tents, he took his people, and he went as far as Sodom. Why was this an issue? The men of Sodom were exceedingly what? Wicked and sinful against the Lord. Sodom was not a good place. But Lot thought, hey, it's well watered, I have my cattle, I can trade with the people in the city, and I can make some buku bucks. This decision set Lot on a course which led to a curse for him, for his family, and even for the people of God. Anahi, remember Lot's life. Remember Lot's life. Now, let's talk a little bit about Sodom. Sodom had a king over them, and they were buddy-buddy with 4 other cities. And they said, hey, let's make war against these 4 other cities over here. 5 cities against 4 cities, we can do it. We can do it. And so they rebelled against them. They fought against them. 5 cities against 4 cities. Who do you think is going to win?
5.
Guess what? The 5 didn't win. The 4 won, and the 5 lost. And we read the following. Then they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and went their way. They also took who?
Lot.
They took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Now remember, when Lot first chose that land, it said he pitched his tent as far as Sodom. He was not yet in Sodom, but here we find him where?
Sodom.
Dwelling in Sodom. He started out near Sodom, but now we find him in Sodom. Something was alluring Lot, something was drawing Lot, something was drawing his family to live in the city. Lot started near Sodom, then moved into Sodom. And as a result of that, he is taken captive, he is taken a prisoner, all his goods are taken captive as well, and he is now a prisoner. But this gave Lot an opportunity to reflect on his choice. Was it a good idea for me to go to this well-watered plain, this well-watered section of that land? And this is good news for us, because even when we have made a bad decision, God's going to send red flags to us. God's going to send warnings to us. God's going to give us opportunities to turn around. And here he was giving Lot an opportunity to turn around. Now, Uncle Abraham heard about the war. Uncle Abraham heard about the battle. Uncle Abraham heard that Lot had been taken captive. And guess what Uncle Abraham did? Uncle Abraham said, let's get some troops together and let's go rescue these people. And Uncle Abraham did just that. And he went and he rescued Lot and brought him out of prison. Lot now had an opportunity. Maybe I should get out of this city. Maybe I should get away from these people and go back to the life that I led when I was with my uncle, my materially rich uncle, my spiritually rich uncle. But you know what? Lot refused to leave Sodom. We read Abraham brought back all the goods and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. But Lot did not at that point turn around. He made the choice to dwell in that well-watered place. He made the choice to go into the city of Sodom, and he stuck with that choice. You know what kind of experience that was for him? The Apostle Peter tells us Lot was what? Oppressed. You know what oppressed means? Oppressed means that someone's keeping you down and you don't have any freedom. Lot was oppressed by the filthy conduct of the wicked. For that righteous man dwelling among them did what? tormented his righteous soul from day to day by seeing and hearing their lawless deeds. Lot decided to go back to Sodom despite being taken captive, despite the issues that he went through, and he had a miserable experience there. A miserable experience. He was not a happy man. Here's something really important about Lot. Though Lot had faith in God, he did not take the initiative to follow God. He did not choose to follow him. He allowed life to happen to him. You know what that means? Whatever happens, okay, I'm good with it. I'll just go along with the waves. I'll just go along with the waves. And that's what Lot did in his life. Anahi, remember Lot's life. Years later, Abraham gets visited by 3 strangers. You know who these 3 strangers were? 2 of them were angels, and 1 was God. 2 of them were angels, and 1 was God. And God spoke to Abraham, and he said the following. The Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is what? Great. And because their sin is what? Very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it has come to me, and if not, I will know. Uncle Abraham knew what this meant. Uncle Abraham knew that God was sending those angels down to Sodom to interrogate, to investigate, and to see if it's time to take action against them. And Abraham knew, oh boy, it's time to take action. And Uncle Abraham pleaded with God, prayed to God, and asked him to spare the city, to save the city, even if he finds 10 righteous people in the city. God, if you find 10 righteous people in the city of Sodom, please save them. And I want to draw good news from this, Anahi. God has people praying for you. God has people who are pleading for you, for your walk with him, for your welfare, for your safety, for your protection. And as God heard the prayer of Abraham, so God hears their prayers as well. People are praying for you, and that is good news. God answered Abraham's prayer, but he did not find 10 righteous people in the city. The angels came to the city of Sodom. They came to interrogate, check out the city, but they also came to test Lot and to rescue him if he would be rescued. And Lot saw them in the middle of the city at night, and he pleaded with them, come into my house, let me wash your feet, let me feed you. And the 2 angels said, nah, we're okay, we're all right, don't worry about it. But Lot said, no, come, because Lot knew what kind of city this was. And these men, he didn't know they were angels yet, these men needed to be protected. Did you know that if Lot did not urge these men to come into his house, he would have been lost? He would have been destroyed with Sodom. His hospitality for strangers, his care for strangers, saved his soul. Well, the city gathered about Lot's house, and they wanted to abuse these 2 angels. They did not realize that these were 2 angels, and they wanted to abuse them. And it is at this point that these angels reveal themselves to Lot. Notice what we read in Genesis 19, verse 13. For we will what? Destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. It is at this point that Lot begins to pay the high price for that choice that he made and for that choice that he stuck with. Anahi, remember Lot's life. To begin with, the angels are telling Lot that you got to get out of here. You got to leave this city. But Lot was very reluctant to. Lot was what you would call apathetic. We read in verse 15, when the morning dawned, the angels what? Urged. Do you know what it means to urge? To encourage strongly, urged Lot to hurry, saying, arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. The angels are urging him, but Lot was spiritually numb. He lost his sense of urgency. He became accustomed to the city and the way the city governed itself. He became accustomed to the sin around it. But the story doesn't stop there. Notice what we read in the next verse. While Lot lingered, the men, or the angels, took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters, the Lord being what? Merciful to him. And they brought him out and set him outside the city. Oh, this is wonderful news. We may make some serious mistakes. We may stick with those mistakes. We may be very reluctant to give up the choices that we have made, but God is merciful to us. God is compassionate toward us, and God sends those to save us, to rescue us. Here is good news that God is incredibly patient with us, even when we do not realize the danger we are in. Even when we do not realize that. Lot had lost a sense of spiritual urgency, but the fallout of Lot's choice did not stop there. The angel said to him, escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape where? To the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Now, life in the well-watered plain of Jordan, life in the city, or life in the mountains? Which would you like? Life in the mountain was not going to be easy peasy. You can only take so much with you. Now remember what we saw before? Lot had cattle, herds, and tents. He had none of that now. Lot lost all his wealth. Lot lost all his riches. But the fallout of Lot's choice does not stop there. Remember, the angels told them, do not look back. Do not look back. Flee to the mountains. Do not look back. Well, someone did not listen to that command. Someone did not listen to the angel. Lot's wife. Genesis 19:26. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a what? Pillar of salt. Lot lost his sense of urgency. Lot lost his wealth. And Lot lost his wife. But the fallout of Lot's choice does not stop there. Because when they finally did go to the mountains, we get an insight into how Sodom influenced his daughters. And I promise to keep this rated G. Genesis 19:31 and 32. Now the firstborn, that's Lot's oldest daughter, said to his younger daughter, our father is old, and there's no man on earth to come into us as the custom of all the earth. Come, let us make our father what? Drink wine. These daughters said, hey, let's get our dad drunk. Let's get our dad drunk. And he'll do things that we want him to do that he would not otherwise do. Let's get our dad drunk. You get an idea of the influence that Sodom had on these girls. Lot lost his sense of urgency. Lot lost his wealth. Lot lost his wife. And Lot's daughters were corrupted, but the fallout does not stop there. We read, continuing Genesis 19, the firstborn, that is Lot's first daughter, bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. Now, does anybody know the Moabites and the Ammonites? Anybody remember them? I see one hand raised. I see another hand raised. I see another hand raised. Moabites and Ammonites were for people who for centuries placed obstacles in front of the people of God. They were an annoyance to the people of God. So Lot's choice did not only impact him, it not only impacted his family, but it impacted the church of God as well. We can learn many lessons from the life of Lot. As you venture into this new phase in your life, there will be before you some wonderful opportunities. There will be before you some incredible challenges. There will be before you as well some incredible temptations. Incredible temptations. You're going to see some well-watered plains in the Jordan and be drawn to them. But Anahi, remember Lot's life. There will be cities like Sodom that are going to allure you, that are going to try to call you and try to get you to abide and stay with them. But remember Lot's life. God was faithful to him. God was patient with him. He had Uncle Abraham praying for him. God blessed him despite him. But Lot could have done so much more for himself, for his family, and for the church of God. I want to tell you a story about Checkers. Checkers was this black and white dog, and he loved to be outdoors. And his family put around the house an invisible fence. You know how an invisible fence works? Yeah, the invisible fence kind of sends a signal to the dog's collar, and if the dog gets too close to the fence, it starts to hear a sound, a high-pitched whistle, to warn it, don't go any further. If the dog continues, you know what happens after that? Bzz, shock, a shock on the collar. Well, Checkers loved chasing after bikers. And when Checkers saw bikers going down the road, Checkers said, I want to chase those bikers. And he began running toward them. He heard the whistle, he heard the sound, but ignored it. He got the bzz, he got the shock, but he said, I'm going through it. And he ran through that invisible fence and went after the bikers. And you know, after a while, that little shock didn't bother Checkers anymore. That little whistle, he didn't listen to it. That little shock in the neck, it didn't bother him anymore. And this was bad news for Checkers. Because you know what's eventually going to happen if you keep chasing after bikes. And they're driving on the road in front of you. What else drives on the roads? Cars. And if a car versus a dog, who's going to win? The car's going to win. Well, God has put an electric fence around our lives. And when we get close to that fence, we get a signal. We get a warning. Do not go any further. This is not good for you. Do not try to cross that line. If we ignore it, God may send a painful shock. A shock that we would not want to have, that we would not want to live with. But we need that shock in order to turn back. Let's not be like Checkers. Let's not be like Lot. Let's listen to those signings. Let's listen to those whistles. Let's listen to those alarms. Let's let those shocks speak to us and instruct us and tell us where not to go. Let's not chase after the thrill with the risk of our life. Remember Lot's life. Filled with warning for us, filled with lesson, but also filled with encouragement, because God will bring spiritually rich uncles into your life. Spiritually rich aunts into your life. People who will pray for you. People who will rescue you. People who will do all that they can to set you on the right path. Anahi, remember Lot's life. That's my prayer for you. Amen.